So before I did technology, if you didn't know this, I was a classroom teacher. I taught special education for about 4 years, doing math. Then I did social studies for a while, went back and forth. Um, every single time teaching multiple subjects throughout the day. And then I switched to CTE, where I actually taught, let's see, I think I taught 6 different classes, um, and then like courses. And then I gave up my conference period on one day, so I had a conference every other day. So some of it taught I've been in crazy scenarios. I didn't actually have a classroom until my first year, so last year, sorry, so I always floated. So because of that, organization became a very important thing for me. Because again, the crazy scenarios, lots of preps, and just in general, there was just certain things that I, struggle with as far as organization. Anyways, so I had to make it a really big focus. And while I didn't have Google Drive, I wish I had. What I learned was to really, break things down into folders, and almost over organizing helped me. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through that. Now, some of you have seen this because you went through it during the summer, but I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of the why, and just to encourage you to do something similar, even if you've been teaching successfully for years. And then with that, kind of talk about some things I would add with this. So I would actually go and take my TEKS and basically print them out, so I was ready to know what I had to cover throughout the year. And then I would begin to break that down into lessons that I wanted to do. So for example, like in CT, it's kind of vague sometimes. It's like work collaboratively or whatever. Students should learn how to do that. And so I would think through and basically came up with a little like Shark Tank type project, or we would do there was one about kind of understanding how marketing works. And so we would actually watch commercials, and I'd have them analyze them and then present to the class. And so, you can take what you're supposed to teach and then come up with ways that you want to communicate that fit your style and that you also think are going to connect with your kids. And so I would come up with those lesson ideas, and I would actually calendar out and kind of think through, okay, I think this is going to take a day, this is going to take 3 days, to kind of make sure that I was filling up the year and wasn't going to, run out of content or end up rushing myself at the end to cover all the things I wanted to cover. And then as I did that, I would sit there and highlight each basically TEK and TEK subpoint to kind of show, hey, I am hitting everything that I'm supposed to hit by the end of the year. And then what I would do is, once I had those lessons kind of lined out and I was good there, I would make folders. So I'm just going to choose one of these. I'm going to choose math. But this works for all subjects, works for all grade levels. And then so from there, I would make basically folders. In this case, these are the TEKS resource units. Sometimes I would, if I was teaching CTE, I would do it by like topics, because that's kind of more how my course worked, like job interviews, presentation skills, different parts of web, different parts like HTML and CSS, things like that. But these TEKS resource units worked really well. And so I would break it up into those units. And then inside each thing, I would do more subfolders. So here you can see we've got just this lesson planning template, but I would actually then go into a folder of my presentations I was going to use. So my slide presentations, student notes, I would put in my notes, and then I would also make a doc for just like project ideas, if I wanted to make it more interactive. Digital resources I use, so there's videos or things like that, and then and it's basically like a creativity doc. And then I would also even put like some games, like sometimes I do little PowerPoint games and stuff, or like in math we would do like toothpick puzzles, little brain teasers, things like that. So anything that I thought I could do. And then I also had a hook thing. So basically, like, here's some ideas for how I'm going to hook them in. And so basically I had my start to finish. Now, I mentioned project ideas because that was more of how my assessments worked in the CTE, but if it was math, I would actually have a folder for my assessments there. Now, if you are doing things digitally, so digital assessments, you could also do like a Google sheet and like have just links to, this is where my Google form is and things like that. And so basically, here's what happens. Because I'm basically overly organized, I can come through and each day or day before really quickly come and pull what I need. Second thing is, and this is one reason I did this, I struggled with kids were absent remembering what I did what day and catching them up. And just frazzled me for some reason. So it was real easy for me to go, okay, here's what I did. Hey, here's that copy of notes. Here's the notes. Here's the activity. Here's blah, blah, blah. Of course, if you're using Google Classroom, this helps as well. Third thing, accommodations. So if you've already got all these things in here, it's super easy to distribute that to students as they request it or as you're supposed to get it. But here was the biggest reason. So remember, I had 6 to 7 preps in all my classes. So by having these folders for each class individually, I was able to front load as much as possible because I was able to kind of go in and go, okay, I need to fill in this blank, this blank, this blank, and at least get out a little bit ahead. But then, since it was organized, once it was done, once I came around to the next school year or the next semester, it's already there. So when I show up, all I'm doing is going in and I am seeing, okay, hey, this is what I already did. But the other thing is I'm able to go in and see what I had and go, oh, you know what, that kind of didn't work. This didn't quite last as long as I needed it to, and I ended up with some downtime that caused them to get big discipline problems. This reference is a little outdated. Let me see if I can come up with a more current event. And so all I'm doing is instead of having to fully lesson plan again, I am just tweaking and improving, which makes the lessons more engaging, which makes the class time more enjoyable, reduces discipline problems, reduces your stress and frustration, and so it helps out. And so I really encourage you, whether you're teaching 1 prep or 7 or 8, to take the time to do folders. For most of you, just begin to organize the things that you already utilize. And even if you want to kind of work in a folder system that works for you, and that way you have those things stored. Because I can tell you by the time I got towards the end of teaching, before I moved into technology, I spent a lot of my conferences, reading books, or doing things like that because my lesson planning was done. Most of my things were digital, and so my grading kind of was taking care of itself. And it was really an enjoyable experience. And so maybe for you, as you're thinking through, like, what's my first step in this? For some of you, it's going to be purely creating folders and just dumping in what you've already done because you are in this constant chaos of every day or every night feeling like you have to refine everything and recreate everything. As part of that process, I would also start to pull the things that you've already been provided with, whether that's from the math resources the district purchased, ELA, social studies, or whatever, or supplemental things that you've gotten. And I would begin there. But the biggest thing I would do is think through, what is your biggest frustration and your biggest stressor, and then think through how can maybe getting more organized help to solve that, or what organizational system can I put in to solve that. Because the biggest thing I think I learned was that we get caught up sometimes in, because of the conversations we have in the lounge or because of what we see in TV shows and movies and on the news, that somehow this job and profession has to be stressful. Does it have its stresses and frustrations? Sure, every job and career does. But it doesn't have to be as much as we think it does. And so thinking about what are those problems I have in the classroom with planning, with discipline, and how could maybe being more organized, or what organizational system could I create to solve just 1 to 2 of those problems to get started, so that your day is more enjoyable. If you want some help with this, let me know. I do have some of my old stuff. It's not like you could use my curriculum because you didn't teach what I taught, but you can kind of see some of the organizational and some of the things that I did, and I can help to walk you through that. If you're doing if you're going through the Fundamental 5 stuff with Jennifer, I actually used to utilize, and I'm sure it's out there somewhere, there was a Fundamental 5 kind of lesson plan guide, and it was really great to help you kind of stay organized as well, as far as some of those things. So let me know. I can help you find tools, help you create things, help you plan and organize, whatever I can do.